Avada Kedavra's standard function. Avada Kedavra, known as the Killing Curse, is one of the 3 unforgivable curses in the wizarding world. When cast successfully, it causes instant death with no physical injury. The spell is identified by a flash of green light and the sound of rushing wind.
Avada Kedavra!
There is no counter curse, and it cannot be blocked by most magical means, including physical shielding or common defensive spells like Protego. This absolute lethality is what makes Avada Kedavra distinct from other attack spells in the Harry Potter universe. It does not cause pain or suffering. It simply ends life immediately. To cast it, a witch or wizard must have strong intent to kill and sufficient magical power. Improper execution, lack of intent, or insufficient power will render the curse ineffective. Harry's first survival. The first documented failure of the Avada Kedavra curse occurs in Godric's Hollow, during Voldemort's attempt to murder infant Harry Potter. According to Deathly Hallows, Lily Potter sacrifices herself to protect her son. This act of unconditional love creates a magical shield that Voldemort does not anticipate or understand. When he casts the Killing Curse on Harry, it rebounds upon him, destroying his physical body and reducing him to a shadow-like existence. The spell did not simply miss or misfire. It connected with Harry and yet failed to kill him. This anomaly is not due to a flaw in the curse, but because of a deeper magical law, ancient protection magic invoked by self-sacrifice. Dumbledore later explains that Lily's act caused her blood to carry protective enchantments, binding Harry to life so long as he remained with her blood relatives. This same protection is later sealed when Dumbledore arranges for Harry to live with Petunia Dursley. The event leaves Harry with a lightning-shaped scar, not as a physical wound, but as a residue of powerful dark magic being deflected. The curse's rebound also inadvertently creates a 7th Horcrux. A fragment of Voldemort's soul attaches itself to Harry, who becomes an unintentional vessel. This is the only known case where Avada Kedavra has failed due to protective enchantments rather than magical interference, wand interaction, or split allegiance. It marks a turning point in magical theory regarding love-based charms and is the earliest and most famous case of the curse not behaving as intended. Harry's second survival. The second irregular instance of Avada Kedavra occurs in the Forbidden Forest during Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. In this scene, Harry willingly walks to his death to sacrifice himself for others, mirroring his mother's original act of love. Voldemort casts the Killing Curse at close range. Yet again, Harry survives. Unlike the first time, this survival has multiple layered explanations rooted in advanced magical principles. First, Voldemort is unknowingly attempting to destroy a piece of his own soul. When he made Harry into a Horcrux as a baby, a fragment of his soul latched onto Harry's body. During the forest confrontation, the Avada Kedavra successfully destroys only that soul fragment, not Harry himself. Second, the Elder Wand, which Voldemort wields, does not recognize him as its master. Its allegiance lies with Harry after the disarming of Draco Malfoy. This mismatch in wand ownership likely diminishes the spell's effectiveness. Dumbledore theorizes that because the wand senses Voldemort's hostile intent toward its true master, it cannot fully execute the curse's lethal power. Third, Harry's prior protection through his mother's blood still lingers. When Voldemort regenerated his body using Harry's blood during the graveyard ritual in Goblet of Fire, he unknowingly anchored Lily's enchantment to himself. As a result, Harry is still protected by his mother's sacrifice, now tied to Voldemort's own life. All 3 of these overlapping magical mechanics, Horcrux dynamics, wand allegiance, and blood protection, converge to produce the second known failure of the Killing Curse. Harry's body enters a limbo-like state where he meets Dumbledore and is offered a choice: to return or to move on. He chooses to return, making this the only known case where someone hit by a direct Avada Kedavra remains conscious enough to decide to live. Priori incantatem. A third major deviation from the normal behavior of Avada Kedavra occurs during the graveyard duel in Goblet of Fire, when Voldemort and Harry's wands connect. This connection triggers Priori incantatem, a rare magical phenomenon that only occurs when 2 wands share the same core, in this case, a feather from Fawkes the Phoenix. Instead of one wand overpowering the other, the connection causes the spells to backfire in reverse. Voldemort attempts to cast Avada Kedavra, but rather than killing Harry, the 2 spells lock in midair, creating a golden thread between the wands. This magical tether forces Voldemort's wand to regurgitate its previous spells in reverse order. The phenomenon manifests as ghostly echoes, first Cedric Diggory, then Frank Bryce, Bertha Jorkins, and finally Harry's own parents. What makes this moment significant is that Avada Kedavra never actually hits Harry. The spell is fired, but it is halted mid-flight due to the magical resistance between twin wands. This contradicts the spell's usual portrayal as unblockable and instantaneous. Instead, the Priori incantatem effect effectively neutralizes the spell's killing power by locking the caster in a magical dual loop. Importantly, this is not due to a flaw in the spell itself, but a byproduct of wand compatibility. It reveals that wand lore can override even the darkest magic when rare conditions are met. The Priori incantatem effect ends only when Harry breaks the connection and escapes. This instance marks one of the only times Avada Kedavra is interrupted by wand behavior rather than external defense or magical protection. It underscores that even the most feared curses in the wizarding world are still subject to the ancient laws of wand allegiance and magical interference. Snape's death, the curse not used. In Deathly Hallows, during the events at the boathouse, Voldemort seeks to eliminate Severus Snape. But rather than casting Avada Kedavra directly, he instructs Nagini to kill Snape. This is a significant divergence, not just in method, but in Voldemort's reasoning. At this point, Voldemort believes that in order to become the true master of the Elder Wand, he must kill the wand's previous master. He assumes that since Snape killed Dumbledore, Snape holds the wand's allegiance. However, Voldemort also fears that using Avada Kedavra might not sever the wand's loyalty correctly. As a workaround, he uses his snake to carry out the killing. This scene shows Voldemort's doubt in the absolute finality of the killing curse when Elder Wand allegiance is involved. His refusal to use it, despite his history of relying on the spell, demonstrates that even the darkest wizard of all time recognizes that certain magical relationships can disrupt the spell's function or outcome. Although Snape dies moments later, the nature of his death underscores the complexity of wand ownership, death, and intention in magic. It's not the killing curse that fails here, but Voldemort's intent to bypass it reveals growing uncertainty in its effectiveness under complicated magical circumstances. Thus, this isn't a case of the spell backfiring or being blocked. It's an intentional omission due to Voldemort's mistrust in its reliability when wand allegiance is in question. Fantastic Beasts, visual and functional deviations. In the Fantastic Beasts film series, Avada Kedavra is used multiple times, but its depiction differs notably from how it functions in the original Harry Potter books. One of the clearest examples comes in The Crimes of Grindelwald, when Gellert Grindelwald uses Avada Kedavra to kill Leda Lestrange. The spell is visibly slower, appearing as a projectile or beam of green energy. Unlike the instantaneous, flash-like effect in the main series, the curse takes time to travel and gives characters an opportunity to dodge or react. This slower visual style appears again in The Secrets of Dumbledore, where spells labeled or implied to be Avada Kedavra behave less like instant death strikes and more like visually telegraphed attacks. For example, one curse visibly impacts an Auror, lifting him into the air before killing him. Another deviation from the canon description of death without visible injury or delay. These cinematic choices do not align with established magical rules from the books. The film's representation appears to be influenced by action movie pacing, creating room for dramatic slow motion and dueling sequences. However, no explanation is provided in universe for this change, and no characters acknowledge that the curse is acting differently. While these portrayals may enhance visual storytelling, they introduce inconsistencies with the established magical mechanics of Avada Kedavra. From a lore standpoint, these instances are better categorized as cinematic liberties rather than canon divergences. Dumbledore's death, standard casting with unusual context. In Half-Blood Prince, Severus Snape casts Avada Kedavra on Albus Dumbledore from the Astronomy Tower. At first glance, this instance appears to be a textbook use of the killing curse. There is a flash of green light, Dumbledore is blasted backward, and he dies on impact. However, what makes this moment stand out is not the behavior of the curse, but the context surrounding its use. Prior to the act, Dumbledore and Snape had secretly arranged for Snape to be the one to kill him, both to spare Draco Malfoy from committing murder and to maintain Snape's cover with Voldemort. Despite this emotional and moral complexity, the magic of Avada Kedavra remains intact. The curse works as expected, instant, unblockable, fatal. What's unique is that Snape casts the spell without hatred or aggression, raising questions about the internal requirements for the curse to succeed. In earlier books, notably during the Unforgivable Curses lesson in Goblet of Fire, we are told that Avada Kedavra requires a powerful bit of magic behind it. You've got to mean it. Snape's casting challenges this guideline. He uses the spell not out of malice, but as part of a solemn pact. And yet, it still works flawlessly. This suggests that intent to kill is sufficient, even without anger or cruelty. The spell's function does not depend on emotional rage, only the caster's unwavering commitment to end a life. In short, while the mechanics remain standard, Snape's use of the curse is significant for expanding our understanding of what it means to mean it, and proves that even the most cold, calculated casting can fulfill the spell's deadly purpose. Only deflection during the Ministry duel. In the Order of the Phoenix film adaptation, a notable visual anomaly occurs during the battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort at the Ministry of Magic. At one point, Voldemort clearly casts Avada Kedavra, recognizable by the green light, toward Dumbledore. Yet, instead of killing him instantly, the spell appears to be blocked or deflected by a stream of water conjured by Dumbledore's wand. This depiction contradicts the canonical behavior of the killing curse. The film's choice to visually portray Avada Kedavra as a projectile that can be intercepted by conjured water is entirely cinematic. It introduces a form of elemental spell dueling more reminiscent of Western fantasy tropes than Rowling's described magical system. There is no textual evidence in the books that Avada Kedavra can be neutralized mid-flight by a spell, object, or natural force. This moment has led to fan confusion and debate, with some assuming Dumbledore has uniquely powerful defenses or that the spell was a different green-colored curse. However, all official film annotations and behind-the-scenes materials confirm it was intended to be Avada Kedavra. As such, this scene stands as a non-canonical exception, created solely for visual drama. It illustrates how film adaptations occasionally sacrifice lore accuracy for cinematic effect, even at the cost of misrepresenting one of the most established rules in the Harry Potter universe: Fiendfyre and the limits of Avada Kedavra. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the trio confronts Draco Malfoy, Gregory Goyle, and Vincent Crabbe in the Room of Requirement. During the skirmish, Crabbe casts Fiendfyre, a cursed magical fire so powerful it becomes a living, serpentine force that consumes everything in its path. This moment does not feature Avada Kedavra directly, but it offers crucial insight into its limitations, particularly when dealing with objects like Horcruxes. The trio's goal is to destroy Ravenclaw's diadem, one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. Although Avada Kedavra is the most lethal spell against living beings, it is useless against Horcruxes, which are protected by dark enchantments that can withstand most magical attacks. Fiendfyre, however, succeeds where Avada Kedavra fails. It incinerates the diadem completely, destroying the fragment of soul inside. This highlights a major magical distinction. While Avada Kedavra ends life instantly, it does not destroy soul-bound magical objects or defensive enchantments crafted through advanced dark magic. Furthermore, during this same encounter, spells, including lethal ones, are attempted in chaotic succession. The extreme magical environment, filled with sentient fire and rapidly morphing architecture, appears to disrupt normal spellcasting. Although not confirmed explicitly, it is reasonable to conclude that curses like Avada Kedavra would be unreliable or misdirected in such conditions. The fact that Crabbe's own Fiendfyre kills him reinforces that uncontrolled dark magic can eclipse the killing curse in raw destructive power. Thus, the Room of Requirement scene serves as indirect but critical evidence. Avada Kedavra, for all its feared reputation, is not the most powerful spell in all circumstances, and it can be completely outclassed by deeper, more chaotic magical forces like Fiendfyre. But for all its power, Avada Kedavra wasn't the only spell to shape wizarding history. Some were invented in secret by a single man. If you thought you knew everything about Snape, think again. Here's every spell Snape invented, explained in full.